Hey, so I've been wearing the Whoop armband for about 2 years now, and at the same time, I've also reviewed dozens of other fitness wearables and sport watches like the Aura Ring, Apple Watch Ultra, and tons of Garmin and Coros and Polar and even Fitbit devices. But throughout these 2 years, Whoop was and still is the wearable that I wear most. In fact, I rarely have not had it on, except in some cases where I've had to review multiple other wearables at the same time. And overall, it's been the wearable I prefer when it comes to tracking my fitness, health, and sleep. So today I wanted to share with you why I prefer Whoop above the others, and also at the end I do want to give you some warnings about Whoop that I think you should be aware of, because even though I prefer it, I do think there are some people who should look at other options, and I'll explain exactly why that is. So number one, by far for me, is the reliability and accuracy of the heart rate variability, also known as HRV tracking. If you don't know what HRV is, it's essentially a measurement of how consistent your heart rate rhythm is. So if you have a HRV score that is lower than your average, that can indicate that your tolerance or ability to take on additional stress is a bit lower. If you have an HRV score that is at or slightly above your average, that can indicate that your tolerance or ability to take on a lot of stress is higher. And so the ability to accurately track your HRV is useful in three ways. For one, it's good to track over a long period of time because your average increasing or decreasing HRV is very indicative of your overall fitness. The second reason is that when paired with behavior tracking, which I'll talk about more in a bit, it helps you truly understand which behaviors improve or hurt your personal recovery. And spoiler alert, this isn't the same for everyone. So being able to track this as an individual is very informative and very useful. And third, you can use HRV to help determine your ability to take on more stress on a given day. And so you can modify your workouts around it to increase your results and quite drastically decrease your chance of injury, which has been shown to be the case in numerous studies now. Now, going back to that first use case, using your average HRV over time to assess whether your fitness level is increasing or decreasing, pretty much any wearable that tracks HRV can do this well enough. But when it comes to the second and third use cases for HRV data, that is where Whoop really leads in the front. One of the reasons for this is because of the algorithm Whoop uses to determine HRV. See, your HRV changes all of the time, especially throughout the day. And when taken during the day, that data is pretty much worthless and unusable. It's only when you measure it in a very consistent way that it can become useful. And so while you sleep or when you first wake up is going to be the data all devices get to determine your HRV score. The important thing to remember, though, is that the data taken closer to waking up in the morning or even immediately after waking up in the morning is going to be the most indicative of how well your body will be able to take on stress that day. So while you might fall asleep with a lower HRV score, your sleep itself could be enough recovery to get your HRV much higher by the time you wake up. The problem with most wearables like Aura, Garmin, and Fitbit is that the HRV score that they give you is the average throughout the entire night. And so even if your HRV score in the morning indicates that you are completely recovered, it'll still show a score much lower than that since it's averaging that with the scores you got when you first fell asleep. So what happens is that this HRV data on other devices rarely goes up or down very much because it's just showing this overall average, which means you can't really use that information to help determine anything about your daily readiness. Whoop, on the other hand, heavily weighs your HRV score closer to when you actually wake up. So the numbers it gives you are much more usable to be able to assess how certain behaviors might affect your recovery and just how recovered and ready you are on any given day. It's still not as accurate as if you just took a manual measurement upon waking up every morning, but it's pretty close and doesn't require you to manually waste a minute or two of your time when you wake up. And to be real, most people are just too lazy to take a minute or two of their time every morning to get that data and would rather just have something that takes it automatically overnight. So when it comes to HRV data, Whoop is easily one of the best. Now, a few others like Polar do a good job as well, but they don't do nearly as good a job when it comes to understanding how behaviors are affecting your personal recovery. And that is what I want to discuss next. But first, I quickly want to tell you about today's sponsor, 10,000. 10,000 makes some of the world's best men's training gear in easily the highest quality, best fitting, and most comfortable training shorts I've ever worn. They're comfortable and functional enough to handle anything I put them through, whether I'm lifting weights, hitting a morning run, doing a HIIT workout, or even just getting in some mobility. Some of what makes the 10,000 shorts so great is that they have a 4-way stretch for a really great range of motion. There's no pinch or bunched up waistbands to deal with. It's sweat wicking and quick drying with a permanent anti-odor treatment. There's also a no bounce pocket system for your phone, cash, cards, and keys, so you don't have to worry about losing anything while you train. And the shorts are available in 5, 7, and 9-inch seams, and there's even an optional anti-chafe inner liner. Every piece of 10,000 gear has been put through countless hours of field testing with elite athletes to deliver ultimate performance, comfort, and durability, all backed by an ironclad lifetime guarantee. As a bonus, you also get free shipping on orders above $75 and a free 90-day return window if they aren't the perfect fit for you. So if you're looking to upgrade your training gear, go to 10,000.cc and use the code CTW for 15% off your entire order. That's TENTHOUSAND.cc with code CTW to get 15% off your entire order. So going back to the Whoop, the second reason I continue wearing it is to help stick to healthier behaviors. And I think for a lot of us, that's one of the main purposes of wearing a smartwatch, to help us track sleep and steps and heart rate and HRV, and then for that information to give us useful data to make changes, or just to simply remind us of behaviors that are actually helping us improve our health. And with most watches, you may be able to see your sleep or your HRV, but you can't really track or see the behaviors that led to those numbers improving. So you never get the feeling of this behavior led to bad sleep or poor recovery, so I probably shouldn't do that very often. And when you wear Whoop, they have easily the best behavioral tracker, which shows statistically how each of the behaviors you want to track are affecting you. And without this, you just don't get that. So for long-term behavior change, being able to associate behaviors with good or bad outcomes is just incredibly important, and something that I feel that you miss out on when you're not wearing Whoop. And after a while, those behaviors become so ingrained with either a positive or a negative health metric that you eventually don't even need the Whoop to remind you. And in many cases, you just sort of make these significant changes to your behavior. An easy example for me is that drinking alcohol has been so obvious and has had such a direct negative impact on my sleep, health, and recovery scores that when I first started wearing the Whoop a few years ago, a few drinks several times a week turned into maybe a drink or two once a week, into maybe a drink or two once per month. And now I don't think I've had a drink or two this entire year. And it's not because I don't want to drink or I was really trying not to drink. It's just something that became more negatively associated in my mind because of all this data and tracking, that I just started naturally drinking less and less. And while other sports watches and fitness trackers do this to a small degree, nothing is really close to how well it's done with Whoop. And so those are the two big reasons, but I do want to fly through pretty quickly some of the other reasons that I prefer Whoop, and then I'll discuss some of the reasons why I don't like Whoop and why some people may want to try something else. So the battery for Whoop is one of the big benefits that I like, because it is the only wearable I never have to remember to take off and charge. And that's because the battery unit slides right over the Whoop when you wear it. So I just charge this battery pack and slide it over for an hour or two and then take it off, and I have a full battery. And then I just plug the battery pack in so it's ready to recharge for the next time. And this is just so much more convenient than having to take your watch or ring off, because sometimes you forget to charge it and need to work out or something. And so that is never an issue. I can just slide on the battery pack and continue with whatever I was doing. I also like that Whoop is constantly testing out and adding new features that are actually useful. They recently added a new AI coach that you can chat with that is able to read all of your data and previous data with Whoop to help give you better insights and recommendations that actually make sense for you personally. They also added a strength training feature so you can track your lifts and weights, so that Whoop can do a better job of assessing your performance and fatigue based on that data. And there always just seems to be something new that's actually valuable added here several times a year. So I feel like they are actually trying to continue pushing up the value of Whoop, whereas other devices sometimes really don't try to do that or care to do that much. Now, as I mentioned, I do have a few problems with Whoop, and these problems are why I don't necessarily recommend this armband for everyone. And one is, if you want to track your steps, Whoop doesn't do that. It could, but for some reason, Whoop has decided that it's not a good metric, and they mixed walking into all of your other activities to give you a daily strain score that gives you an assessment of how much you did on any given day. The problem with this is that for some of us at least, we value walking and tracking steps differently than just working out. Like, I could work out hard and get my strain score up high, but I still didn't move very much throughout the day. So I value tracking steps as well as workouts, and I don't really like that they are combined here into a single score that doesn't really mean that much to me anyways. I would love it if they allowed you to see your overall steps daily if you wanted to. And so again, if you want to track your daily steps, Whoop unfortunately wouldn't be a good fit. I also wouldn't suggest Whoop for runners if this is your only wearable. Since of course there's no screen, that means when you run, it's not going to be of much use for you compared to a normal sports watch, which can show you your heart rate, pace, distance, or even maps with GPS. But really, outside of runners or those who really want to track their steps, I think Whoop is easily one of the most valuable wearables currently on the market. A lot of time people do associate Whoop with more hardcore athletes, but I actually think the value here is even stronger for just the regular person who wants to try and make some changes to live a longer and healthier life. Also, if you have a question about Whoop, make sure to ask them in the comments below so I or somebody else can help answer them, and make sure to check out some of my other videos about Whoop to learn even more. As always, this is Colin Jenkins with Connect the Watts. Appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time.